Hey everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com, and here on the YouTube channel. And today I did a little bit of an experiment, something I've been telling you guys I'm going to do for a while. I finally got around to doing it, and that is I'm comparing, and we're going to compare recording a drum set with 8 microphones in 2 different places. One through the SSL Origin using the SSL preamps on the drive circuit, the more colored circuit, and then we're also going to record it simultaneously into the PreSonus StudioLive, which has traditionally a very clean, high quality preamp. And then we're going to bring the sessions into Studio One and we're going to compare them back and forth so we can hear the difference between what did drums sound like recorded through the SSL versus through a traditional type of audio interface, decent quality preamp. So that's what we're going to do today. Before we get started, like, share, subscribe. If you're one of our 70% of folks that are watching this channel that are not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out tremendously. Also go out to mixingmusicanalog.com. If you want to learn more about what I do here and how you can have your music mixed through SSL and all the outboard gear. And last but not least, if you're into mixing in the hybrid workflow and you want to check out my hybrid mixing courses, check those out. Links will be in the description box below. Okay, so let me talk to you about what we're going to do here. So, first and foremost, we're going to thank a couple of people. We're going to thank Roswell Microphones, Roswell Pro Audio Microphones. They supplied the microphones for this demonstration. This is not sponsored in that all the microphones have to be sent back. I don't get to keep them. They did not pay me for the video, but they let me borrow the microphones. Thank you so much, Matthew, over at Roswell, for loaning me the microphones. So let me tell you what we have set up here. On my Gretsch Catalina Club Maple kit, across the studio over there, I'm sure there'll be an image that'll come up on the screen. We have 8 microphones on that kit, all Roswell. On the kick, we have the Mini K47KD. On the snare, we are using the snare top, we are using the Mic Parts snare microphone. On the toms, we are using the Mic Parts S25TT microphones. These are all large diaphragm condensers. On the overheads, we're using a pair of Mini 67Xs. On the room mic, we're using a mono room, we're using a Mini K87. And on the kits, right in front of the kit, about maybe 4.5, 5 feet in the air, maybe about 3.5 feet, 4 feet away from the drum kit, we are using a Mini K47. So all of these are Roswell and Mic Parts, which are owned by Roswell microphones. Check them out. All the links will be in the description box below. They make fantastic sounding microphones at very, very, very reasonable prices. Their microphones sound way more expensive than they truly are. Everything is less, I think everything we're talking about here is less than $500 US as the recording of this video. So make sure you check out the links in the description box below. And thank you, Matt and the Roswell team, for loaning me these microphones. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So basically I set up the kit, 8 microphones. It's not a large session, I get it. First time through, we're going to play the drum part through the SSL Origin here on all 8 inputs here on the first 8 channels, and we are using the drive circuit, the pure drive circuit on the SSL. The SSL Origin has really kind of a 2-stage preamp. A drive preamp, or what they call their pure drive, which adds a little bit of compression, a little bit of coloration, harmonic distortion, and then they have a more transparent. We're going to use the drive circuit because that's how I use this when I mix, and why wouldn't you want to do that? So that's what we're going to do this time, and we're going to hit the console pretty hard. We're going to hit it. We're going to try to push the console a little bit to get as nice of that saturation. Then at the same time after that, we're going to just unplug the microphone from the SSL. We're going to plug them into the PreSonus StudioLive on the first 8 channels. No EQ, no compression, no other processing on either one of the formats, just straight into Studio One. So we're going to play back. I'm going to play the drums to a backing track. The backing track that we're going to use is by my good friends, the artist out of Connecticut, band Laini The Wildfire. The name of this song is Dime. We have featured their music on this channel before, and we're going to feature more of their music on this channel in the future. There is already an In the Side the Mix episode on Dime. Check that out. Basically what I did is I asked for their permission to take Rob's performance, the drummer of Laini The Wildfire, out of the mix, and can I play drums to Dime? And they said, sure, Dave, go ahead. Check them out. No problem. Do whatever you want to do to our music. So Uncle Dave's going to try to play a little bit of drums here to Dime. Great tune. Thank you, Laini The Wildfire, for allowing us to use this music in this demonstration. Make sure you check out their links in the description box below as well, because they're a fantastic band. And doubly thank you to Rob, the drummer of Laini The Wildfire, for allowing Uncle Dave to kind of take out the real performance and kind of butcher it up a little bit. So that's what we're gonna do. So we got the drum kit mic'd up. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna record this, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna look at both sets of tracks, and we're gonna listen to both sets of those tracks in solo so we can hear the difference between the two. And then we're gonna listen to the tracks in context with the backing track for the song Dime so we could kind of hear it in the mix. And I'm gonna give you my thoughts on what's the difference between the SSL Origin preamps and the PreSonus StudioLive preamps with only 8 tracks for drums. That's what we're gonna do. So let's go ahead and let's play a little drums to the song Dime by Laini The Wildfire. Okay, gang, we're back. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully I didn't butcher the performance too much. So again, we're gonna go into Studio One here in a second, but basically what I did was I ended up getting myself an 8-channel mic splitter. So it's the same performance. So instead of doing 2 separate playthroughs, I thought it may be a little bit more consistent because my drumming isn't the most consistent, that we would get the same performance. So basically we had a stage box mic'd up into the splitter, out of the splitter. 1 set of cables went to the SSL, 1 set of cables went to the StudioLive. No EQ, no compression, no nothing. Here we are in Studio One. So let me show you what we have here. So we have 2 sets of tracks. So up here in brown is our first set of tracks. These are all of the 8 mics going into the SSL Origin, okay? Kick, snare, tom 1, floor tom, overheads left and right, the kit mic and the room mic. And then down here in blue, we have the same exact tracks, but we have them called SL for StudioLive. Down here in red, these are the original stems from the performance by Laini The Wildfire minus the drums. And we'll listen to it in context in a bit. So actually we could get rid of the click and we can get rid of the original drum track because I didn't use it anyway, because I played to a click, as you can tell, right? Like a clock, Uncle Dave's drumming, right? Not quite. Anyhow, so if we look here in Studio One, so what I did was I took all of the brown tracks that are for the Origin, and I routed them down to a bus called SSL Origin. Then I took the blue tracks that were recorded through the StudioLive and I routed those to a bus called StudioLive. I normalized the audio to make sure that everything was at the same level. And then now we're gonna be able to just flip back and forth. So your job right here for now, before we listen to it in context with the mix, we're just gonna listen to it in solo. We're just gonna be able to solo back and forth between the Origin and the StudioLive. The Origin and the StudioLive. And we should be able to see if there's any difference. Again, there's no EQ, no compression, no nothing. This is just the sound of the preamp. Now again, there's only 8 tracks here. I realize it's not a big sample size, but let's just hear what it sounds like. We'll start with the Origin, we'll flip back and forth a few times, and I'll tell you what Uncle Dave hears here in the room, so you'll know what I'm hearing in case YouTube doesn't sound the same. Here we go. Okay, so what I hear in this example, and they're pretty close, I will say they are pretty close. The Origin preamps sound a little bit more compressed to me, and that would make sense because of the pure drive circuitry. Again, as I said, there's a kind of a two-stage preamp here. You can either have it on the drive where the coloration, some of the compression is going to happen, or you can have it on more of a transparent. I didn't test the transparent because I figured, you know, 99.9999% of the time I would record using the drive circuit and drive the console, right? And that's how I use it when I mix. I use that. I don't use the transparent. So anyhow, so it sounds a little bit more compressed to me. It even sounds on the kick drum just a little bit rounder and a little bit thicker, which makes sense. That would make sense. StudioLive sounds great. Nothing wrong with those preamps. Those are good quality preamps, by the way. People have asked me about the StudioLive and PreSonus preamps in general. They're pretty good. Once you get beyond their $99 audio box USB interface, which are kind of crappy, once you move into a higher end interface like the Quantums and like the StudioLive, they got great preamps. A little bit more transparent sounding, not as thick on the bottom end, certainly not as compressed. You hear a little bit more of the transient. It's not as warm sounding, okay? That's what I'm listening for. So keep your ears on the kick snare. That's where you're gonna hear it the most. So we'll start with the Origin and we'll bounce back and forth. So even on the ride cymbal with the Origin preamps, it sounds a little bit more, what's the word? A little bit more pleasing to the ear. And again, I think it's because of the way we have a little bit of a roll off at the top. It doesn't sound as brittle. Not that the StudioLive doesn't on that ride cymbal, but it rolls off a little more of that top end. Okay, that's interesting. When we get to the floor tom buildup, let me get back to that. A lot more thickness on the Origin. Let's listen to that. Here's the Origin at that part. Now here is the StudioLive. A little bit more on that floor tom. Now again, obviously these drums are not mixed. All the faders are at pretty much, they're all at 0. So there's no real balance here. We're just trying to get a straight through just to make sure that we're trying to compare apples to apples. Go back to the beginning here. Right now we are on the StudioLive. Yeah, definitely more low end in the kick on the Origin, for sure, and a little bit less transient on the snare. So again, they're not miles apart. Let's try to listen to it in the context of some music here. So we'll start off with the Origin. I routed the stems, the vocals, the keys, the guitars, the bass down to a purple track here, a bus, so we could hear Laini The Wildfire. Again, this is not mixed, right? These are just kind of raw tracks. This is just a quick little experiment. So let's listen to that. Let's listen to the music here, and then I'll go back and forth between the two just so we can hear it kind of in context. Here we go. We'll start off with the SSL Origin. Yeah, so I mean, in the mix, it's even less obvious, I guess you could say. But yeah, you could definitely, at least I could definitely hear a little bit more clarity on the ride cymbal with the SSL, a little bit more thickness on the kick with the SSL. But again, nothing that you couldn't resolve with some EQ, right? I mean, again, we're not talking miles here. We're talking, you know, what are we talking? 5% different, maybe? Didn't say better, said different. You may prefer one over the other. Now, let's try doing it with, these are all, like I said, all the faders are thrown at 0. What if we I want to take some of the room and I want to hear more of the direct mics here. So, again, trying to do this so it sounds similar, right? So we're trying to do things similar. Here's let me just kind of balance these a little bit. Here's the SSL. Okay, now let me try to replicate that with the other mics just to try to keep this thing, try to keep the test somewhat accurate here. Okay, so now I've mixed the faders at the same level. Panning is the same now. Let's get what did I do here? Hold on, let me make sure I got the panning correct because I don't want anyone to think I'm trying to be dishonest here. All right, so now we got everything the same. Let's just do it in solo, back and forth. Now we have more of the direct mics. I took down the rooms, the kit, the overheads a little, pan the overheads. Let's just see. We'll start with the StudioLive and then we'll move back and forth. Yeah, so the Origin just has a little bit more clarity. Again, it's very close, but there is some subtle difference there, and I would suspect there would be. But yeah, I guess it's a little closer than I probably originally anticipated, but I do realize that we're only using 8 tracks here. And so even if it's only of a again, if it's a couple percentages, say better, like let's say you like the sound of the console, but you're like, yeah, I like it a little bit better, but it's not really that much better. Well, that's true, but we're only using 8 tracks. So you got to think about this in more of a compound effect thing. So if you recorded a whole band through this, right? Let's say you had 10, 12 tracks on the drums, a bass or 2, direct amp, some acoustics, some electrics, vocals, background vocals, piano keys. Let's say you recorded 30 tracks, 40 tracks through the Origin, versus those same 30 or 40 tracks through, let's say, the StudioLive, you're gonna have a much larger gap because all those little 1 or 2 percenters are gonna compound. And then you're gonna hear more of an audible difference. And from this little demonstration, what I think we're gonna hear is we're gonna hear a little bit more thickness with the SSL. We're gonna hear a little bit more round of the top, a little bit more warm sounding, a little bit more punchy, where the StudioLive is going to sound a lot more clean and transparent. It's going to have a little bit more of a point on the heavy transient stuff, and it's going to lack a little bit of that warmth that some of the compression is giving on the natural state of the preamp in the SSL. So now let's put it back with the music and then we'll wrap up this video now that we've kind of semi-balanced the drums a little bit. So again, we'll start with the Origin, then we'll go back and forth. Here we go.
This ain't some sentimental thing. transaction, labor you can cash in. Oh, you are not defined by how you make your dime. 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 Cash in. Oh, you are not defined by how you make your dime.
Yeah, so what I was listening to there, I was going back and forth to where we get to the end of that, at the end of that chorus where I had two big cymbal crashes. The Origin definitely cuts through a little bit nicer. It's got a little bit more of a sparkle to it, whereas the StudioLive is a little bit more buried. Doesn't sound as pleasing on those cymbal hits. But again, it's pretty close. So again, this is not the most scientific experiment in the world. I just wanted to learn for myself, and I thought I would share with you, because I've said it on the channel before in some live streams and such, that we were going to do kind of a test recording through the StudioLive versus recording through the through a traditional interface like the StudioLive. And so I thought this would be a good first test with some 8 microphones. Maybe in the future I'll do more, maybe more microphones on the drums and maybe some other instruments as well. Leave comments below. Let me know if you'd like to see that. If you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, I will continue to do it. But if you guys aren't really interested and you just want me to get back to the old mixing stuff, I'll do that too. So thanks so much for watching me today and taking a listen and peeking in on what the Origin sounds like versus what the StudioLive sounds like from a recording perspective. Again, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you once again to Roswell Microphones for sending me the mics to use for this demonstration. Doubly thank you to Laini The Wildfire for allowing me to use your music here in this demonstration. Again, check all their links in the description box below. And until the next video, I've been Dave with Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com. Thanks so much everyone for watching today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.